Hey guys, this is Miss Cat, and today we're going to be talking about how to import our sprite sheets into Unity and kind of start animating so that we can get our character to go through some of its animations, while it's moving and jumping and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close out just this little picture right here. You should have opened up Unity. So in Unity, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make my way into my sprites folder. And then I'm going to go into my player folder. Right now I have my mushroom in there. That's fine. I can always go back and delete him if I really don't want him in there. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start importing my PNGs that I made for my sprite sheets, right? Those are PNGs. I want to start importing those sprite sheets I made for my character. So I'm going to do right click. I'm going to hit import new asset. Going to find my way to where I save those. Mine just happened to be in a thing called Gumball. Let's see. I'm going to find it. Here we go, Gumball Walk. And then I'm also going to select two other ones that I've made. I'm going to select Gumball Idle and Gumball Idle Left. And so as I import these, you can kind of see over here in this corner that this is my little walks left and right. But we got some problems with it because it doesn't quite reading it the way we want. And so how we're going to get that done is if you click on one of your sprites that you've imported, like if I start with Gumball Walker up here, I've got a texture type of sprite 2D, which is what we want. It could be on default. Go ahead and if it is, turn that back to sprite 2D. That's what we want. Our sprite mode is not single because we've got all of these sprites, right? So it's a multiple sprite mode. So we're going to change our sprite mode to multiple. Pixels per unit, we know we had originally set to 300, so we're going to change that to 300. And then I'm going to go into my sprite. Oh, we don't need to open that. I'm going to go into my sprite editor. And so it's going to ask me if I want to apply these settings. And I'm going to hit yes because I do, or apply because I do want those to be applied. I want to be able to edit the way I want. And so when I'm in here, you might say, okay, what am I supposed to do in here? So this is your sprite editor. This is looking at what sprite is what. So in here, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit slice. It's saying type automatic. Well, I don't want it to do automatic. Instead, I want to down click and hit grid by cell size. And so by gridding by cell size, I can actually tell it how many pixels are in each individual sprite. And so for this is also why we kept it this number. It's going to be 300 by 300. I'm going to hit slice. And then I'm going to hit apply. And so now as I click on these, each one of these is its own little sprite sheet. Cool? So as I close this out, if I go ahead and I re-click this arrow button open, it now is reading every single one of these as an individual sprite, which is exactly what we want. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to repeat that process really quick for my Gumball Idle and my Gumball Idle Left. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to change this from single to multiple, set that to 300, hit sprite editor, apply, slice, 300 by 300, okay, apply, exit, and then I'm just going to repeat this for all the sprites I have. Now, you can put every single sprite that you want on one sheet. I just like to happen to have them in different sections, so that way if one of my sprite, either like a walk cycle is messed up or whatever, I'm not having to import the whole thing, having to redo everything. Instead, I have each individual kind of animation done separately. I need to change this to multiple. And last time, 300 by 300 slice, apply, and exit. Okay, so now all of these have each of these individualized. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here in my sprites and I'm going to go ahead and grab a player. And so I'm going to open up my sprite idle. I'm going to grab and I'm going to drag him into the scene. So he's a lot smaller than my mushroom, and that's okay. I can size him up if I want. I kind of do whatever. It's not going to hurt my sprites. But I size him up. And I'm also going to rename him I'm going to double click on his name, right click it. I'm going to call him just Gumball. He's my player. He's my Gumball. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just turn off my mushroom guy. So I'm just going to turn him off. And to do that, I'm not going to delete him. Instead, if you come up in your inspector, there's this little button right here where it's checked. If I uncheck that, it simply just doesn't show him anymore. And that's what I want it to be. I want him still there in case I need to refer back, but I don't need to be looking at him. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to have my Gumball right here. I'm going to do a few things first. So we know our Gumball is our new character, and as we talked about in an earlier video, we need to add a few things to him first. So I'm going to go add component, physics 2D, capsule collider, and his capsule collider is a little off, right? Because it looks more like a circle than it does how it's really supposed to be around him. So I'm going to offset this X, and I'm going to turn that, or not offset it, size it, down to like 0.5. So 0.5 is still a little big. I can go to like 0.4. And if I wanted to, I could offset it. I might just go back to 0.5. I'm going to go back to 0.5. That was pretty okay. I can offset it by negative 0.1, negative 0.04. There we go, negative 0.04. Yours may not be exactly like this. Yours may automatically be fine. That's okay. Mine, I just wanted to fix it up a little bit. So I'm going to call that good right there. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add another component. And I'm going to say add component physics 2D. I'm going to scroll all the way down. I'm going to add that rigid body. Remember we talked about last time that rigid body is what allows us to kind of move and everything else. And I forgot to say this before, but whenever I put a rigid body on a side-scrolling character, I want to make sure that they don't go tumbling across the screen and like start, going in circles. Just because of the way the physics system works. So instead, you have these things called constraints. I can open this up, and I'm going to hit freeze rotation on the Z. And so what that means is my character will not rotate as it moves, which gets really annoying. So I'm going to hit freeze rotation on the Z. I'm going to close some of these up. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my assets, go to my scripts, and I'm going to grab my player movement and throw it on my Gumball. Now once again, I've added my rigid body on here. So in my script where it says RB player rigid body, I can simply click, drag, and place. Right? So there we go. So from here, we're looking pretty good. Now it's time to get into the animating. And so before we animate, I'm going to right click. I'm going to do create a folder. I'm going to call this animations. I'm going to double click inside. I'm going to right click and I'm going to do create folder, and I'm going to say gum animations. So gum is for just the gumball. I'm going to click enter, because as I start to animate this character, I don't want to fill up, my whole animations thing with just all these different animation little objects and stuff, of which whenever we start doing it, you'll understand that it really will get confusing if I were to just throw every single one I did right here. And so next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to come up to Gumball. I'm going to go up to my window. And on my window, I'm going to go to Animator, or Animation. Here it is, Animation. So I'm going to click on Animation, which will open up a window right here. And if I want, I can kind of pull this down into my projects. You don't have to. I just like shoving it in there sometimes because it makes it easier to see everything. And in my animations, I'm going to have, once again, make sure Gumball is selected. And it's going to say, to begin animating Gumball, create an animator and an animation clip. Alright, so what this means is that I want to create an animation, because I want to create a walk cycle animation, right? And it's going to create an animator. And so what an animator is, and we'll get more into detail in a minute when we actually see this, is an animator allows you to actually go through the different types of animations you make. So in an animation, I might have my walk left, my walk right, my idle right, my idle left. And so an animator allows me to control when I do those things. So to start off, we're just going to hit create. and where do I want this to save. So I want to make sure that I'm saving this into my gum animation. So if you saw what I did there, I couldn't find it in my just drop down right here. So I hit my drop down arrow. I'm gonna click gum animation. I'm gonna call this, and this is the name of your animation. So I'm gonna call this gum idle right. And if you want, you can add some lower cases in there, or not lower cases, some, little spaces in there. It's not anything big. I just like to add those so that it's a little easier to read. I'm going to hit save. And so now I have this little timeline. So if you remember from animation class, you have a timeline. This is where sometimes, having this detached or at least throwing it over here works a little bit better. So now I moved it over so I can see my project view along with it. The reason I do this is it makes it a lot easier for when I want to place some of these things. So I just grabbed it and I moved it until it touched over here. So I want to go ahead and I want to start animating this gum idle right. And so to do that, I'm going to go over to my sprites. I'm going to click into player. And now I need to find where my gum idle right is. And that's all of these in here. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on the first one. I'm going to hold shift and click through as many as I want. So I can see him over here. It's a still. He comes down and he bounces kind of back up. So I'm going to click on those. I'm going to click and drag them onto the timeline. And now when I press play, you can see he kind of goes through his animation, but it's kind of like he's having a seizure. And the reason is that it's playing so fast is because it's sampling, or it's going through those frames per second at a rate of 60. So it's 60 frames per second, which is way too high, especially for this animation. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this down to 6, press enter, and now when I play this, he just kind of bounces, and I think that's adorable. But he kind of does his idle bounce. And that's basically how I animate, or how I get one animation done. It's just that simple. You've already done all of the work in Photoshop. It's just putting it in and making sure you have the right sample speed. So I'm going to go ahead and pause that, or just unclick play. And we're going to make the next one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click right on where it says gum idle right. I'm going to click that, hit create new clip. Call this gum underscore idle left. Hit save. And now I'm going to open up my gum idle left. That's this one right here. I'm going to click, hold shift, move it over again. I can once again play it, and it's going super fast. So instead I'm going to turn this once again back down to 6 under my sample. Press play again. He's all cute and adorable. I'm going to call that good. So the next ones I'm going to make are my walk cycles. So I'm just going to go back down here. I'm going to click on that, hit create new clip. Call this gum walk underscore right, and hit save. So when I do my little gumball walk, I need to make sure that I'm only grabbing the ones that are facing the right way. So this one is right. So these guys at the beginning are facing left. So I know I don't want to grab them and put them into my animation. Instead, I'm going to go down to here. That's where my right animation starts for walking. And then I'm going to select the last one. And I'm going to click, drag these over again. And I've tested this. I know I like 6, so I'm just going to put 6 in, hit enter, and press play. So now he walks. Awesome. Good. Now we have him walking, and I'm just going to do the opposite. I create new clip. Gum underscore walk underscore left. I'm going to do that same thing. Select the images I need. Put them in there. Turn the sampling down to 6. And press play. So now that's my other walk. So this is all fine and good. I've got my animation going. It's looking pretty okay. But when I press gumball and I start to play this and I move him, he doesn't do anything else besides play his idol. And we're like, okay, you should be, moving back and forth, jumping. You should have some type of movement that you are doing at this point, but you're not doing anything. So let's fix that. Hey guys, sorry for the interruption on this. This video is just running long, so I'm going to cut it in half, and I also forgot to cover something with you. So we made this folder for our animations right here, and if you click into this folder, you'll see a couple of different things. And so this one over here, that's got these lines and these boxes, has to do with our animator. So this is our Gumball animator. That's where our animations, we connect them, kind of like we were talking about in our video and all that. And then each one of these that has a little playback is a different animation. This is just something real quick I wanted to let you know. This will continue in part 2. You can find that. It should be just one link down from where you are. But yeah, I continue this in part 2. No worries. So have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in class.